Greetings and good afternoon, Free Some Land. This is Thandisizwe Chimurenga coming to you today on Thursday, the 24th. This is our fourth Black August study and struggle series. Appreciate y'all for hanging with me. Got one more to go next Thursday, the 31st. So, as usual, this is Rootwork on Black Power Media. Please hit the like button. Yes, hit it now before you forget. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for Black Power Media. Hit the subscribe button so you will get notifications when shows are going live. Please hit the support, pledge, sustain, whatever you call it button. Donate, join, become a member of Black Power Media. We need you to become a member here on YouTube and on Patreon in case, folk keep acting up and we need to bounce, as they say. Like, subscribe, join, share. Share this video. Share the link to this video. Share the link to the previous Rootwork study and struggle sessions. Share the link to today's interview of Drew Dixon by Kalonji Jamachanga. Share the links for all of this stuff. Y'all know we got the good stuff. You know we got good content. You know we got content nobody else has. So come on, quit playing, knock it off. Like, subscribe, share, join. So today we're going to be talking about, this is going to be a conversation, actually. It's a conversation between some new African comrades, myself and Sima Lee, around gender, sexuality, talking about the pathology of patriarchy, taking our cue from our good comrade Sanyika Shakur, formerly known as Monster Cody, and his book, Stand Up, Struggle Forward. Sima Lee is going to be coming on in a few more moments. Let me give you their background real quick. They are an organizer. Zen, stop texting me while I'm trying to read. Sima Lee is an organizer, abolitionist, educator, and artist. They have been organizing, teaching, and creating art for 30 years in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. Shout out to the DMV. They are a founder of the Direct Action, Mutual Aid, Anti-Colonial, Anti-Capitalist Grassroots Group, Food, Clothing, and Resistance Collective, Maroon Movement, and, now give me a second, and the QTGNCNB centered Intentional Community House, Maroon House, and Black Lens Photos, which showcases social documentary photography and media, as well as the podcast Marooncast. I called Sima up a couple of weeks ago because I needed to talk to somebody. I needed to talk to someone who identified as trans and who would not condemn me as being transphobic or a TERF, even though I admit I do have TERF-like days, and answer some questions I had, who would allow me to vent, who would be what I call my crazy chick. Is it me? What is going on? And Sima, because they have a background as an educator, they were more than happy to do that. And the more we talked, I said, you know what? This sounds like a conversation we need to have on Black Power Media. So before I go any further, let me let you know, for those who are tuning in now live, for those of y'all who come in and watch this later, this may be triggering for you. Therefore, you might need to bounce now. I'm going to say that again. This conversation may be triggering. If you're going to get triggered, if you made it this far, but if you think you're going to get triggered, you might need to bounce now. One of the things that we need to do, it's so much we need to do, we need to have hard conversations. And it is clear to me that based on social media, which is not built for, whose purpose is not for having nuanced, honest conversations. That ain't why social media exists. Try as we might, we be trying to have conversations, and it doesn't always work that well. But we need to have hard conversations. Black Power Media, in my estimation, from what I've seen, from what I know of folk, ain't got no problem with having hard conversations. So if you are someone who has a problem with hard conversations, there are going to be people who think that the very fact that we're doing this is either transphobic or getting us off topic of quote unquote more important things. You might need to bounce because this ain't the show for you. So I just want to make that plain as we move forward. And once again, I see y'all lighting up the chat. I ain't coming over there just yet. I'm not going to come over there just yet because y'all know I'm trying to work stuff out. And as usual, I got stuff to share with y'all. And as usual, y'all know me, I'm still trying to work out this technology. But as we wait for Sima to come on and have this conversation, let me at least start with some of the documents, some of the receipts for y'all for later on. So the first thing I'm going to start with, I am a member of the Rebuild Collective. The Rebuild Collective is an outgrowth of, oh Lord, y'all, how many names we got? Crossroads Support Network, Spear and Shield Publications. They are responsible for the Vita Wawatu journals, the Crossroad journals, the works of Atiba Shana, i.e. James Yaki Sales, Meditations on France Fanon and the Wretched of the Earth, Close Comrade, working with Sanyika Shakur, formerly Monster Cody, right? Currently, we are known as the Rebuild Collective, and we put out the Rebuild periodical. But this is a Crossroads Support Network newsletter from fall of 2000, volume 9, number 3. We're going to be talking about a lot today, but it's also a lot that's interrelated. So I think I'm going to start with this. This is fall 2000, volume 9, number 3. You can go to rebuildcollective.org, the website, to find the back issues of Crossroad, Vita Wawatu, etc. You can also hit up the Freedom Archives for their back issues. I believe they're online. I'm not sure if rebuildcollective.org can send you the actual ones, but you might be able to download it as a PDF. But at any rate, if, now it don't want to work. You see how this happens? This is what happens with my, page is unresponsive. Well, yeah. Okay, it might be responsive now. Fall of 2000, volume 9, number 3. Let's see if we can get right to it. Now, this was questions sent in to Crossroad and answered by Yaki in particular. Again, fall 2000, volume 9, number 3. Question: I don't agree with homosexuality, and I can't see how it fits into our struggle or what role homosexuals would play in our struggle. Answer: we wish that we could give this question more time and space here, but we can't. We can, though, commit to giving this and related issues more space in future issues of Crossroad because they are critical and don't get the attention they deserve from any sector of the movement, the Black Liberation Movement or the New African Independence Movement. One's sexual orientation is not among the criteria that Spear and Shield Collective, SSC, uses in determining one's right to be considered a legitimate and full member of our organization, our family, our community, or society. When we say, and if those of you are not familiar with the New African Independence Movement, we capitalize the word we lowercase I, to show that the community is greater than the individual. When we say we, it includes all of our people. We, meaning Spear and Shield Collective, can't speak for the entire Naim New African Independence Movement on this issue, because despite stated principles, such as the New African Declaration of Independence, homophobia and sexism run rampant within the Naim, affect its ability to recruit and retain righteous activists, and its ability to serve the people. Let's see if it's still acting up. Ooh, it's not. Okay. We won't say that you have to, quote, agree with, unquote, homosexuality, but we will say that you have a duty to combat homophobia within yourself and wherever you confront its expression in other individuals and institutions. We believe that you have the responsibility to treat other people as people and to respect their right to their sexual orientation, free from any form of discrimination, oppression, and exploitation. Moreover, we think that you have an obligation to investigate and study this issue on which you are clearly misguided and misinformed. Combating homophobia fits into our struggle, quote unquote, because we struggle to end all forms of oppression and exploitation. Our perspective, that is the Spear and Shield Collective, connects all forms of sexual repression and patriarchy and the struggles of all peoples to liberate themselves from capitalism and imperialism. Homophobia is really about male dominance, and the dominance is about the creation and maintenance of a set of social relations that serve the ideological and material needs of patriarchal hegemony and capitalist exploitation. Heterosexuality as a norm is an imposition of the social order that oppresses and exploits us, and that we struggle to overthrow. The only roles, quote, we're concerned with are those that can be practiced by any and all persons committed to social revolution. Homosexuals are men and women that are capable of doing anything you think you're capable of doing in the revolutionary process and as a social being. And that's from the fall of 2000, volume 9, number 3, Spear and Shield, Crossroad Support Network. Now, I have some other things for you, but I'm going to put them on the back burner because we have the in studio guests and I want to give them priority. So let me introduce Sima Lee one more time and then bring them on in the quote unquote digital flesh. Sima Lee is an organizer, abolitionist, educator, and artist. They have been organizing, teaching, and creating art for 30 years in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. They are a founder of the direct action, mutual aid, anti colonial, anti capitalist grassroots group Food, Clothing, and Resistance Collective Maroon Movement, and the QTGNCNB centered intentional community house, Maroon House, and Black Lens Photos, which showcases social documentary photography and media, as well as the podcast Maroon Cast. Seema Lee, you doing a lot, man.
I'm
Welcome to.
sorry. I was
Oh, don't,
looking at making sure I have everything off. Should
don't
I mute
apologize.
while I'm smart? Can you hear any feedback? Want to do that
Uh,
stuff.
sounds good to me. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Welcome to Rootwork,
Free to land.
Free to Land. But yeah, you're doing a whole lot. I don't know if I can keep up with all of that. But how you
Yeah.
doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad to be up here. A lot of good comrades on this network. I'm just happy to be here. So yeah, how
Okay,
are
well,
you
I'm
doing?
happy to
How
have
you
you.
doing
Happy
after
to
the
have you.
floods and the earthquakes? How you doing?
Man, I
Yeah,
knew black folk were gonna be all right, but I let me go on
yeah,
and get the generator and get my batteries and some flashlights. I need to do it anyway.
right,
Because whenever the
right,
earthquake hit, it's always those areas that the white folks have fled to. So I
exactly,
figured same thing with the flooding. But
exactly.
anyway, I'm good. I'm good.
All
So
right,
yeah, again, welcome to Rootwork. Welcome to Black Power Media. Happy to have you.
thank you.
And let's get to it, shall we? I
All
was
right.
telling folks before we came on that you were gracious enough to allow me to bend your ear a couple of weeks ago. You let me vent to you. And one of the
Yeah.
reasons you let me vent to you is not only because you're a New African comrade, but because you said that you are an educator. And I want to get into that. But the reason I called you this time, the most recent, I won't call it all nonsense because, again, let's talk about it. The most recent incident was this social media comedian person by the name of Jess Hilarious, who responded, I think, via TikTok to a trans woman who was basically saying that cis black women, i.e., black women who agree with our, whose gender identity, we agree with the gender identity assigned to us at birth, etc., or agree with our sex, we don't gatekeep black womanhood or we don't gatekeep womanhood. Trans women also have periods, etc., and so on. And it's awfully arrogant for us to be out here acting like we the only women. And Just Hilarious was like, "You're confused." But other than that, who's going to defend us, real black women, natural born black women? Who speaks up for us? Who defends us? So as I was saying, I found that there was nuance lacking in that conversation. And of course, because it's social media, it's not designed to go deep, right? But then
Right.
after that, Dr. Umar chimed in, supporting Jess Hilarious and everything that she said, making a whole, taking it to a whole another area that may or may not be worthy of discussion. And I was like, it's too much, not so too much. It is. It's too much going on. It's too much missing. I got questions. Who can I turn to?
Right.
And I'm glad you allowed me to turn to you because I do have a person in my orbit, a maybe they're not trans, maybe they're gender nonconforming. They was like, "Hey, I got you. Any questions you got?" And I
Right.
didn't want to go to them because they are not New African. They are not black. It's a
Mm,
non-black person. And I feel like
okay.
this is a conversation that black people need to
It
have.
is.
It's a
People have
conversation
conversations
black folk need to have.
about,
And
yeah, about it.
the first time I broached this conversation was again on social media. I really did not know. I ventured out there asking questions, got labeled turf transphobe and blocked on social media. And I was
Mm,
like, see, this is what I thought was going to happen. But you know what? I still got questions. I still need answers.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's
No,
how we started, right?
yeah, that is how we started. And the thing about it is you have the ability to take TikToks, cut them, remix them, not have the whole clip be shown, and people get bite-sized pieces of information without any information behind it, any explanation, any references, any science, anything. It's all
Mm-hmm.
attitude and who can clap back the hardest and who can get the most likes, hearts, follows. When that incident happened, um, it's happening in a climate of the most anti-trans legislation, anti-LGBT legislation, um, and a global clapback at the moment around the world, against LGBT people. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a very intense time right now for people who are, for the sake of asterisks and all that. When I say queer, I'm meaning LGBT, and when I say trans, I'm speaking of trans, gender nonconforming, non-binary, two-spirit. We're not going to do all those alphabets. I'm just going to say queer and trans so people understand. Those are umbrella terms, right?
We're gonna
Um,
abbreviate.
yeah, we going because for sake of my tongue, and I've been talking all day, so
Mm-hmm.
Um, So it was a tense situation already in the realities of Black, queer, and trans. And I'm always going to focus on Black, queer, and trans folks, right? New Africans.
Mm-hmm.
So when that happened, and there was no context added to it, it only added to something that was already boiling hot, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
putting water on on hot grease.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm not a fan of online reactionary conversations, and I didn't. I saw some people were upset that certain people didn't chime in. I do this. I live this. I breathe this. And so I don't have to do it online if I don't feel like it. You don't, I hope people know that you don't have to respond every time. And I got that from Toni Morrison. When she said
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to respond every time white people dredge up something about you. I feel the same way as someone who is a part of the transgender, non-conforming, non-binary community.
Mm-hmm.
But something like this, when you come in good spirits like this and you genuinely want to know, and I told you, I said, we don't have to, I'm not up here to convince anyone. I'm not up here to do anything but be who I am with the understanding that I have from experience as well as scholarship and
Mm-hmm.
talking to my people. And
Mm-hmm.
so that just situation was just taking something and running with it and not
Mm-hmm.
even playing the entire clip, because the trans sister was talking about in relation to periods, people like me who is considered to be transmasculine and non-binary, and I have reproductive system, right? I have periods and all of these things like anyone else, and they're starting to include the items like tampons and other items in bathrooms um, that are labeled for men.
Well, hold on. Let
And
me let me stop you for a minute.
mhm,
You have also given birth.
2 children, 2 wonderful, amazing artists, and yes, I have. And in fact, one of my children is trans.
Mm-hmm.
So there are LGBT people in my family. Um, there are LGBT people all around me. I organize with LGBT people. For those
Mm-hmm.
who know about the organization that I run, it was completely founded by Black, queer, and trans people. It was a
Mm-hmm.
space for everyone, but it was ran and done and all this work. And if you've seen Simile RBG, the music, the everything, from, if you know me from Uhuru movement, if you know me from Zulus, if you know me from Occupy the Hood, if you know me from Ujima, wherever you see me at, I was always a Black, queer, and trans person. And I have
Mm-hmm.
no problem having dialogue with my people if it's sincere and it's not coming to like um you know demean
Mm-hmm.
me or others. And so that just situation, she was wrong, and then she went on and on and on with it, and then people clapped back, and it just became a mess. But
Yeah.
within all of that bull, there was some truth being said in regards to some of the clapbacks, um describing that trans people aren't coming after cis people.
Mm.
i'm not
Well,
I'm not
well,
looking, you know
well.
well, and
To
when I say that, let me say it. When I say that, I mean, like, who's passing legislation against who? Who's attacking who in the streets? Who's murdering who is who is
okay.
denying um food, clothing, shelter, the basics of humanity to whom?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have transgender, non-conforming, non-binary people, Black, queer people. We don't have that
Have that
ability
power,
to do
right?
we are an oppressed people, and we don't have one consensus, right? There's no T.S. Madison and others, chimed in, but they're not like the spokespeople. They're, for all Black people. Not every Black LGBT person speaks for me. Not every New African speaks for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I take things as they go, and I go off of fact and logic. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things are intersected with implicit bias, right? How we were raised, how we were conditioned, the culture where I'm from, we don't do that. Hey, where I'm from, we don't do that either. I'm from Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But where I'm from, they also do that. You get what I'm saying? These are people's cousins, brothers, sisters, aunties, pops. We're not some anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, underneath the context of that, I just wish that it could have just been a more calm dialogue. But people are emotional because people are dying, losing housing. It's a lot going on right now, and it's very intense.
And I remember saying to you in our conversation offline, it's like, you know, trans people are being murdered, no question, repressive legislation is being passed, no question. Therefore, why are you, and I'm not talking about you, I'm asking, this is the conversation we're having. Why
Mhm.
are you worried? Why are you making TikToks talking about trans women have periods? Shouldn't you be concerned about something else? Shouldn't you
And
be
she was
doing
talking
something
about
more
trans
important?
men. Yeah, she was
Well,
talking about trans men. And
right.
just like millions of black people make irrelevant conversations online, why can't trans people? Like we don't have to be the spokesperson and the people, waving the flag of breaking down things to people. Sometimes people just get on this, social media and
Sometimes,
pop straight ish, just yaga 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 yaga, just going in, saying a whole lot of nothing. It feels good.
yeah.
We call it a kiki, or spilling tea, or um but it isn't always, again, it's not representative of everyone. So if somebody says something and it's incorrect and nobody corrects it, that's one thing. I like to correct stuff when false information is put out there, misinformation is put out there. Again, that sister never said trans women have periods. She was speaking about trans men, trans masculine folks, gender non-conforming folks, non-binary folks who may not go by she and her. And when people are asking for inclusion in the language, that's what they're also saying.
Mm-hmm.
Women who can get pregnant and others, you know, um, people are trying to expand the language so that more people can be fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not taking away anybody's anything,
Mm-hmm.
including, expanding the language. We always expand and change our language. That's part of being black. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. Like we take it, flip it, create our own slang, change meanings of everything. And so, yeah, language has to be understood for us to have a dialogue.
So
And
let's talk
so,
about
yeah.
language then. Let's talk about language and let's talk about roles. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get back to some of this uh, documents I want to share, but let me at least put it out there. Mother Toni Cade Bambara, in
Mm-hmm,
her work, The Black Woman, which came out, I
mm-hmm,
believe, in 1970, masterpiece of a work. She's got an essay in that book on the question of roles, and I
mm-hmm,
suggest people read it. This is from the late 60s, where she
right.
talks about maybe we should throw away this category of man and woman of roles
Mm-hmm,
altogether. And like I said, hopefully I'll get to it. Um, but I suggest people check that out. If you've never checked out Toni Cade Bambara's The Black Woman, please check it out. So,
mm-hmm,
Sima, let's talk about language. We recently had a brother here on Black Power Media on the
mm-hmm,
Remix Morning Show, Mark Lamont Hill. Great
mm-hmm,
interview. People should check that out.
mm-hmm,
But a while back, he caught a lot of flack, and he's still getting flack. He was in a conversation, not a conversation. I don't know what it was, but anyway, he was talking with, what's that heifer's name? Candace Owens. And he was asked the question, can a man give birth? And he said
mm-hmm,
yes.
right.
Now, when I was telling you about the time that I was asking these questions online and got labeled a turf and got blocked, I was
Mm-hmm,
trying to have this understanding, a better understanding of gender. Gender is a
mm-hmm,
social construct, just like race is a social construct. And by
exactly,
social construct, we're talking about a category for a
exactly,
particular reason. It serves a particular function. Therefore,
right.
the category of woman serves
Mm-hmm,
a particular function. The
mm-hmm,
category of man serves a particular function.
mm-hmm,
Therefore, gender is different from sex,
mm-hmm,
i.e., female and male. So, female and male on, you got female and male on one side, you've got man and woman on the other side. We
uh-huh,
popularly define a woman as an adult human female, but the gender construct of roles and their function and their purpose, you have adult, biologically female beings who reject the social function, should I say, that is planned for them as
mm-hmm,
women.
mm-hmm,
Adult biological males who reject the social function that is planned for them, or should I say, is expected of them as
mm-hmm,
men. So
mm-hmm,
when Mark Lamont Hill says, yes, a man can give birth, I understand that's what he's talking about. Everybody doesn't understand that. Everybody don't want to understand that. They don't want to hear it. I've seen people still clowning them to this day. I get it. It's a
Mm-hmm.
hard pill, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand how a trans man says, I want to be a parent one day, I want to give birth. A
Mm-hmm.
biological female who kept their reproductive organs but
Mm-hmm.
does not identify as a woman. Okay,
And
I get
right.
it. But the very fact that I was asking questions trying to understand that triggered this person. Said I was
Mm-hmm.
transphobic and as you can see, this bothers me, right? You because I'm
Right.
still talking about it and kicked me to the curb. I'm like, I'm just trying to understand. Go ahead.
Right. Um. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. A lot of people socialize in their own bubble,
Mm-hmm.
right? So these are things that a lot of people have never had the conversation with transgender, non-conforming, non-binary folks, right? They've
Mm-hmm.
had conversations about us, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
They've had we've been talked about for a very long time, and when it comes to modern scholarship around trans, I mean, we're talking 100 years or so back of modern, and then we can take it back further. But like, what do y'all think that what the Harlem Renaissance was? Like I need people to understand, right? This isn't some new phenomenon. People were very much rebelling, being gender outlaws, as Sanjika said,
Mm-hmm.
um, during blues, jazz, our authors, our scholars, our the people who were out there fighting alongside everyone else. Many of them were gender outlaws, sexual orientation outlaws, and I don't get into the whole back and forth with people about um biology and sex. Like, I'm not an endocrinologist, right? I go to them for my services, but that part of the conversation I don't get into. About people can research it. All the data is out there about DNA, about chromosomes, about intersex, about how a trans person's brain is mapped, and how they study it, and they see how this functions before they're even on testosterone or estrogen or anything of that manner. It's proven. It's scientific. It's research that's been done. Tests, sometimes humiliating tests, right? Demeaning, degrading tests. And us as Black people, we hasn't that always happened? Isn't gynecology actually created off of our bodies? And so
Mm-hmm.
so those of us who are in the gender minority and the sexuality minority, we've been experimented on and shunned and worshipped and loved late at night, and we've constantly having to explain our existence. It's exhausting
I'm
to
sure.
constantly have to
Yeah.
tell people, hey, but I'm just a human. I'm different. I know I'm not the majority. Yes, we're in the minority. Yes, my childhood was different than yours. Even though we may look the same way, my childhood was not like yours.
Hmm.
It might have been more like what you call the opposite sex, but that's what I identified with. And for me, I could speak since I was 3. And it wasn't until my 40s that I was able to actually begin the process of what we would call a transition. And all it is just being the fullness of who I am. You know,
Hmm.
it's just again, the adult female. Yes, I'm gonna say it. It's a turf phrase, and I get it. The dinosaurs, and I know how to identify. I look. I'm a revolutionary. I'm a educator. So I look, and I see dialogues and things. But what I want to say about that is when we get too close to constantly speaking about natural
Yeah.
biology, things of this
Hmm.
nature, be careful, because
Yeah.
those were things historically used against us.
I
Right.
should.
Those are things. Yeah. Those are things. Somebody on the chat said old school. I'm old, y'all. I'm a 80s now. I know I got a youthful face, but I am old school. I'm in my 40s. Yeah. But those things were often used against us, right? To genocide
Yeah.
us, to justify mistreating and brutalizing us. And Sanyika's essay, that was something that empowered me so much, because he
Hmm.
spoke about it. He broke it down, how these are things that we go off of. Patriarchy fuels a lot of this, how we use anthropology, how we use biology, how we use these things. So there are many things that have not been shed in a full light because of the people even doing it have an implicit bias. The
Mm-hmm.
scientists, the doctors, the just for us to get a decent the humiliation we often go through when we go to a doctor, a new doctor, God forbid, and they see our bodies and it's just a whole thing that we go through. And I think about again cis black women up on those tables. You know, I'm here in Baltimore where John Hopkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Notorious for everything that they did to us, the
Mm-hmm.
medical, racism. Um, so those things are always alive to me, up and present. And when people have those conversations, it makes me feel a little uneasy because I'm like, where are you going with this?
Mm-hmm.
Medicine and science has been studying us for a very long time in multiple indigenous cultures, from Native Americans here, Polynesian communities, India. I mean, you can go all throughout Africa, various countries within Africa. They all have their own language and word for what we would call gender variant, gender outlaw, trans, gender queer, gender nonconforming, butch, stud, dyke, femme. It's just words, right? At the end of the day, people are people, they're humans. And Sanyika held upon that. Like, regardless of all that, we're still oppressed at the end of the day. After we find out reasons not to like each other because we're different, white supremacy is still banging on us. So what are we
Mm-hmm.
gonna what are we going to do? Keep fighting about gender? Keep fighting over genitalia? Are we banging on white supremacy, capitalism, imperialism, colonialism? That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't always have great conversations with other Black LGBT people in regards to that either. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
and or with cis folks. I don't. Like, we're not focused on what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
yeah.
media in general, that's the whole point of media in general. Media amplifies. It amplifies information,
Right.
conversations, concepts, etc. Social media is media on steroids. So it's
Exactly.
going to amplify the division, it's going to amplify the nonsense, it's going to amplify the misinformation. There's some of us who even going to say it was created specifically to put forth misinformation, division, etc., etc., and so on. So, to your earlier point about um, trans people not quote unquote attacking cis people, that's what it looks like because of media, because that's what
Mm-hmm.
gets played up. That's the amplification that
Mm-hmm.
they're coming quote unquote for us. But now again, like I said, you and I were having this conversation about the nuances that are missing because there are principled critiques
Mm-hmm.
that need to be made but can't get made because of one, fear of being labeled transphobic or turf,
Right.
and because of two, um, ignorance and division. Those critiques, those conversations don't happen.
Right.
Madness is allowed to proliferate until we have what I call the cosmic slop of fuck shit. What do I mean by that? The misogynoir that is
Mm.
sometimes present, from my point of view, within the
Mhm.
trans social media. It's a so within the let me just say the manufactured trans debate.
There
Within
you
that's
go.
why I say black folks need to have this conversation amongst themselves,
Right.
because there are some times when I'm like, no, you anti-woman with you acting like a man with that madness right there. But if I say this out loud again, you know what happens. So just some of the language that I'm hearing, sometimes I understand expanding the language to make room for everyone, but in
Mhm.
some of that I'm hearing anti-woman. Well, women aren't the only one to give birth. Okay, can you explain it? No, go look it up on your own.
And
Okay.
right, and because some people are just tired again. Yeah, because they're tired of explaining.
Who they been
And
explaining
everybody
it
got
to?
it. Everybody
Because I
right,
missed it.
right, but again,
Mm-hmm.
the algorithms, right? The
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
I get hit with is
Mm-hmm.
is is off the chain, off the chain. And so everybody in the LGBT community is an educator. They just
Right.
going about their day to day, and they might be hood and ratchet and be like, I don't want to fuck you. What you asking me this for? You know what I mean? Like, so we have to understand that, like, you could come to a simile and ask questions like that, right? And I'm a
Mm-hmm.
school you. I'm be like, oh yeah, that's mad turfy, or yo, actually, you just a little, you just missed a little part of nuance to that, or da 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 da, or no, that's flat out wrong, fam. Who the hell you told you that? Like, I'm a real person. I'm really, you're gonna break it down to folks. I'm not gonna, you know, but then there are sometimes people who come at you and they ask you questions intentionally to go down the route, which is why I don't do the biology thing. I'm not, I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I, because I know how to debate, right? And I know how to, you know what I'm saying? I know how to have
Mm-hmm.
conversations. I know when someone's trying to debate and someone is sincerely trying to. So if people pop off like that, like da 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 da, it's because I am tired.
Mm-hmm.
I don't universally speak for all queer and trans folk, but
Right.
I am right now. We's tired. And we out here banging too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just so we can aesthetically look good, but ain't nothing wrong with that, right? Because especially when you're black, and historically they've told you you're ugly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the dominant, even within our own media, within our own music, within our own everything, we're not even taught to love each other. It's just a bunch of garbage, right? Being pumped constantly about destroying each other, not loving each other. This person's not thin enough. This person's not light enough. Just
Mm-hmm.
horrible stuff, right? That we would
Mm-hmm.
never accept from white supremacists. We would never accept this from, but it's internal. And the same with gender, the same with sexuality. And I like how Sanyika spoke about major and minor patriarchy,
Mm-hmm.
and how our own people, the masses, go on autopilot. So if white people took and created this race and created this gender roles to aid patriarchy, and the state is over all of that, and as he said, Sky Daddy, you know, he said the masses end up being some of the most homophobic. The people who have been oppressed by the oppressors end up acting out in the same manner as the oppressor. So if white people are homophobic, then here we go. Boom, we doing it even on a different level. If white people are transphobic, boom, we doing it on a different level. We know they're being homophobic and transphobic though because they need us in certain roles, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You stay in this kitchen or you stay in this field or you stay, you know what I'm saying? Like assigning roles for us like we're chess pieces. Um all of it serves patriarchy though at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so it's just real. I just need people to understand that like there's misogyny, there's trans misogyny, there's misogynoir, and none of those things aid the revolution. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there you have it up there, Pathology of Patriarchy. For those listening in, that's what we're talking about. This I mean, this essay, I should say, I
Mm-hmm.
found it to be amazing because I'm from the hood. So we looked up, and the first thing I ever knew about Asanyika Shakur was as Monster Cody.
Right.
Okay. That's how we all in the hood, we all had that monster, that monster. And it was just a time that we were growing up in. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of us was out there on the block and we saw this somebody who was like us transforming himself into a revolutionary, and it gave us a lot of hope. You know and when I read this article, I don't even know if he was, I feel like he was maybe incarcerated at the time when he wrote this.
Yeah.
And
Let
it's
me
just, yeah.
go real quick. This is from Stand Up, Struggle Forward, Sanyika's last book, essay entitled Pathology of Patriarchy, a search for clues at the scene of the crime. What we are going to do here is direct your attention to the pathology of oppression, but not simply as you are used to reading about it. The obvious points of contention will inevitably be touched on as they relate as attendant ills to the subject at hand. However, we will try to keep our focus and your attention trained on the issue in play. Please bear with us as we move along to connect the dots. We want to talk about homophobia, the fear and oppression of gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgender people. And we want to discuss this because, as revolutionaries, it is our duty to deal with all socioeconomic and political phenomena that engages our reality, past, present, and future. The obligation of the revolutionary is to make the revolution, that is, to change oneself, encourage the people to change, and then change the current system that oppresses. Of course, it would be ideal if it says here 2012, we didn't have to even deal with this matter. We wish that these issues had been resolved during the last high tide of consciousness, but sadly that was not the case, and so here we are. No matter, the sooner begun, the sooner done. No, right on. We are learning as we go to recognize, overstand, isolate, and deal with maladies as they arise, but have just begun to tie all these into the oppressive mix of patriarchy as the origin of major isms that crush, kill, disrupt, and destroy as they oppress and exploit. It's unfortunate, but we're having to start from scratch every 30 or 40 years because we lack a continuity of consciousness in our struggle against capitalist imperialism. And while issues of sexism have been dealt with in large part by women, it's necessary to broaden the scope in the discussion of sexism to include homophobia and heterosexism. We are not in any way claiming to be experts on this issue. We are studying and struggling around the same things that most revolutionaries are, which is to say, we are looking for clues at the scene of the crime, trying to connect the dots as they relate to individual, national, and global oppression. We are, in essence, looking for ways to get free and stay free. Free, that is, from all forms of oppression.
Well,
So that's our brother, Sanyika. That is a powerful, to say the least, that is a powerful essay. I am so awed by the fact that he wrote it and put it in his book, who is seen as this brother from the block, this
mm,
shown up, not no play gangster,
mm-mm,
actual gangster, an actual revolutionary. I don't believe that his transformation was complete, but you know what they say, that what the Christians say, the Lord ain't finished with me yet. He wasn't
right.
finished yet. And he left us, I think, too soon, but he left a blueprint. He
Yes,
left a
he did.
guideline. He left a body of work. And I'm so grateful for that.
And
But
it's
yeah,
not many that have written those types of essays, who
mm-hmm,
consider themselves to be new African revolutionaries or Pan African revolutionaries or African internationalist revolutionaries. You don't see a lot of those books, in particular, coming from what we would call a cis hetero man, because
right.
I was socialized actually around everybody, but I hung a lot with cis dudes. I
Mm-hmm,
was always out there with them in the ciphers, knowledge, getting gems here, gems there. And as an adult, dealing with, should I come out as trans, should I not? I read that, and the speech by Huey P. Newton on homosexuality and the women's liberation movement, and I read um a lot of Kwesi Balagoon, and I thought about it, and it directly, actually, at the moment that I was thinking about transitioning, that it shone on me. I don't even know why that particular article popped up, but it really was one of the catalysts for me saying I'm going to do this for myself now, because I've
mm-hmm,
always been a gender outlaw. my
mm-hmm.
my name is literally Outlaw. I'm from Virginia, where
You
they
mean your last
outlawed
name?
us.
You mean your
Yeah,
quote unquote your
yes,
legal last name?
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm,
And that is connected directly to a big plantation in North Carolina, the Outlaw Plantation, and of course that's a British name, so of course that's a colonial name. But
mm-hmm,
the principles of being outside of the law as a new African anarchist, just like Kuwesi Balagoon, um,
mm-hmm,
of being a rebel, of being an outlaw, and of being a maroon, because I come from the area of the Great Dismal Swamp, and that history is all around me, and I grew up in that, and I was trained under that.
mm-hmm,
Um, it just struck me as so powerful. Um, and it's one of the most, I don't know, sometimes you're meant to read and see certain things, and at that very moment, as I was dealing with how I felt about that, because I knew that Black revolutionaries were going to come at me. Well, what's one thing that you gay, but I know how my people are, like, and I do not expect them to be politically correct. Our people say
mm-hmm,
anything any kind of way all the time, like, and it is what it is. As an organizer, I know how to talk to all kinds of people and deal with it. It is what it is.
mm-hmm,
um but to see him come with logic and break it down in such a precise, clear manner, it gave me a blueprint for anything that came at me afterwards if I had to reference them to something that they could relate to. Besides all of the many Black queer and trans scholars that there are, if they don't want to read that, then just listen to what Sanyika was dropping, and you'll understand. Um, and so yeah, I'm when you said that you wanted to have a conversation about this, and I told you how much that particular essay really meant to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that we were able to use that as a backdrop. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those people who are saying that being queer and trans is reactionary, or demanding that we change or conform, you know that's just it's illogical to me, and it's very it shows the conditioning that we've had, where we don't even respect the gender variances that we've had all throughout, again, Africa, what we call Turtle Island, Asia. I mean, I dare you to go somewhere and say that you can find no history whatsoever of people having gender and sexual variance. It's impossible, because it doesn't exist, because it always has been. Have we been this great large majority? No, and we probably never will be. We are a minority. That doesn't mean you discard and you leave anyone aside when it comes to the liberation of our people. Because who are you leaving them out to? You throwing us out to who? To what? To where?
Mm-hmm.
Are you not seeing our humanity? And I
Mm-hmm.
don't ask for that, but I'm just saying, like, I don't understand the rationale of excluding anyone. And as Huey said, we analyze and see if the path that they're taking is a revolutionary path. And if it is, then we align with them. We unite with them.
Mm-hmm. Let me real
Because
quick. I want to get this in real quick. This is Tony Cade Bombara. This is the excerpt from the Black Woman. This is her essay on the issue of roles. Just want to throw this in the mix real quick because, hey, why the hell not? In the last few years, I have frequently been asked to speak on the topic of the Black woman's role in the revolution. Invariably, I get a little tongue tied at the outset, trying to clarify some of the difficulties I have, even coping with the title. What Black woman did you have in mind? Each of
mm,
us, after all, has particular skills and styles that suit us for particular tasks in the struggle. I'm not altogether sure we agree on the term revolution, or I wouldn't be having so much difficulty with the phrase woman's role. I have always, I think, opposed the stereotypic definitions of masculine and feminine, not only because I thought it was a lot of merchandising nonsense, but rather because I always found the either or implicit in those definitions antithetical to what I was all about and what revolution for self is all about, the whole person. And I'm beginning to see, especially lately, that the usual notions of sexual differentiation in roles is an obstacle to political consciousness, that the way those terms are generally defined and acted upon in this part of the world is a hindrance to full development. And that is a shame, for a revolutionary must be capable of, above all, total self autonomy. Now, I want to get into this part right here. I don't know if there are any viable models in pre capitalist, non white societies. I'm going to say that again. I don't
mhm,
know if there are any viable models in pre capitalist, non white societies. I don't know that I can trust the anthropological studies that attempt to illuminate and interpret just how the sexes operated in so
mhm,
called primitive societies, or just how the self was viewed. For much of the work I run across is either written by white males steeped in the misogynistic and capitalist tradition, which means that the material is always slanted to reinforce the myth of male superiority, female inferiority, and separation and antagonism between the sexes, or or written by women with axes to grind, so that the material is always slanted to, quote,
mhm,
prove that women in the so-called primitive societies were dominant and warlike. When I am left to my own devices, and I am neither a man nor a woman who wishes to be a man, I tend to find no particularly rigid work assignments based on sex. the pre capitalist, non white lifestyle seems to be worth checking out, for it sheds some light on the madness of masculinity and femininity, even though it may not offer us any model in this time in history. And then she goes on to talk about in capitalist society what a man is expected to be and what a
Mm-hmm.
woman is expected to be, right?
Right.
And so that
Right.
goes back to earlier when I was talking about the fact that, and I know you don't deal with biology, but I'm just saying, when a
Mm-hmm.
person who is a quote unquote biological adult female says, I'm not going to accept the role of what woman is supposed to be in this society, therefore, don't call me a woman. Or when
Mm-hmm.
an adult biological male says, I'm not going to accept what society says I'm supposed to be as a quote unquote man.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying the
And
exact same thing. It
yeah,
seemed like in 1970.
yeah. I mean, when I go back, because we always got to go back. When you start to read things through I'll say it like this: when you read things through a non um white people's shadow all over everything.
Toni Morrison calls it the white gaze.
I like that.
Hmm.
Okay, I like that. When you look at things without the white gaze, you start to say, oh, and so you start to find gems and you start
Hmm.
to make pieces come together, right? And explanations do, make sense. Um, so it does very much sounds like, there are a lot of people who are non-binary, such as myself. Um, the roles for male or female don't interest me. I'm not interested in any of the roles. The role I'm interested in is in being free and
Right.
happy and seeing my people free and happy and having a world where, you know, we are not under climate issues, and people are denying it, having a world where people aren't starving and homeless and where, rich people are dictating your autonomy, your
Hmm.
very life, your very essence. And so I'm not interested in gender roles. I'm not interested in rules of sexuality, and often these are coming again from an institutionalized place. And I'm not trying to knock anyone's religion, but it's often, as Sandika spoke about in that article, coming from a religious background. But we're talking about
Islamic.
these are the same religious backgrounds that gave us Spanish Inquisitions and slavery and genocide. And why are we taking any
Anything.
suggestions of how to rule society from people who took out our ancestors' teeth and wore it in their fucking mouths? Like, I'm just
Mm.
keeping it 100.
Mm.
You want to be that type of person where you're walking 50 steps behind your man and all of these other things and female genital mutilation, when people are actually wanting to change their bodies in the way that they want to see themselves. You call that mutilation, but we have actual sisters getting chopped up and nobody sheds a tear, blinks. I don't see Umar saying shit. Okay. I don't see Jess saying shit. Roe
Mm.
v. Wade just wiped out our bodily autonomy. And I don't see all these people who are always have something to say when it's reactionary, when it gets them views and likes. You
Mhm.
know, when it comes to things that are actually attacking cis women, right? Like I don't see it.
Mm.
So these roles are they hinder us from being able to do what we need to do because we feel we have to fall in line. Right
Mhm.
now, throughout Africa, in places like Uganda, in places like Kenya, in places like Ghana, in places like Ethiopia, our brothers and sisters and siblings are being attacked, bound, chopped up with machetes. And who's funding it? Who's funding the laws? Who's funding the hatred? It's coming directly from right-wing fascist Christian groups in the United States. Why are they so invested in bringing that to Africa? Because
Mm.
it's continuing. It's religious colonialism.
Yes.
And so it bothers me that we continue to just, as we're saying, that that's not black, this isn't black and that isn't black and this isn't New African and that isn't New African. But then when they describe what is those gender roles, right? That's directly copying white people who when they saw us naked didn't even know what to do. They lost their minds. You came around indigenous people and assumed we were primitive because we didn't have a clothing on, bro. We in the heat. What you talking
It's
about?
hot.
What? And we thick and built and we look good. And which why you hating? Like so they're the wrong people to take cues from about our community, about our people who have always, we have so many different names for gender variants and sexual orientations. And it's not always some L, the G, the B, the T, the Q, because that too is some white people stuff, right? Like those are lesbos and all of that. Like that comes from Greece.
The whole thing of gender roles, as Tony says, we need to investigate this and look into this. This is the reason why, and I'm talking about in the Black Liberation Movement, why do we have conferences with a panel discussion on the woman's role in the revolution? Because the woman's quote unquote role has never been to be out there, to be aggressive, to be a soldier, to be a warrior. The role of woman is to stay in the house with the childrens.
Exactly.
That's what we mean when we say gender is a social construct. And if you think about it, why does a law have to be made? If, for example, just work with me, because I'm like I said, that's the reason why I called you in the first place, because I'm trying to work it out. So if this is the natural state for woman to give birth, because I have that plumbing, right? If this is my natural state, why are you making laws for me? Why do you have to force me into this? Why are you making me do this?
Exactly.
It's for control, coercion, and control. Who's doing the Who's doing the coercion and the controlling?
Exactly.
We don't want to ask these questions, or maybe no, we don't want to ask these questions. But what are the reasons why we don't? Is it that we don't want to find out? Is it because some cover's about to be thrown off of something that we have not internalized but are benefiting from as Black people? Is there a segment of our community that benefits from this?
And then someone in the chat brought up a point I always bring out. So if cis women's job is to have babies, and that's all that they want is just labor and babies, what does that say about women who cannot have babies? Are they not women? Like did they lose who they are? And I think, because I sit back, ghetto's philosopher, like, is that why they're so bothered by people who are gender variant? Is that why they're so upset with people who say, I don't want to do that?
Well, hey,
I want to be something else. Like, so how dare you think that you woman, how do you get to become a man? And you man, you want to lessen yourself to become a woman. In their minds, that's what it is. You're disturbing their ability to control you, again, like pawns on a chessboard.
Well, let me ask you something. Do you identify as a cis woman?
No, I am trans,
but
I am going across from the gender roles that have been imposed upon me. I am also non-binary.
Hold on. You don't identify as a cis woman, but you've given birth, haven't you? So you've done, quote unquote, you've done the duty, right? You've done the duty to.
And I don't owe anybody babies, right? But I've given my babies. Like my babies, I got conscious babies, okay, who are out here not destroying, anything, not coming after nobody, not going after anybody, just trying to live their life like everybody else, and not trying to be an oppressor, not trying to be a neo-colonialist, not trying to be someone wrapped up in capitalism. I mean, I taught them the best that I could and passed on, ethics to them. They are their own people and they have autonomy, right? But I had my babies. And before I had top surgery, I breastfed them both, which actually is shunned upon in the community. And when I did identify as a woman, I was told that was something foul and dirty to breastfeed my children with my own breast. The things that people say out one end of their mouth isn't even the conditions that they create in our communities for us to be able to do. You want Black women to have babies when we have all this mortality? What is up with that? The implicit bias of doctors, them not even wanting us to not even allowing us to have medication when we need it. And you ask med students, they did a study with med students, and their thoughts about us is that we're like these big ape people who don't even feel pain. You would think that's something from the 18th century, right? But it's now, right now. That's how they feel about us. This is how the medical system feels about us. And you want black women, and you don't want them to have the autonomy to choose. You don't want trans and gender nonconforming and non-binary people to be able to choose and have autonomy over their bodies. That should be something that you should be concerned about, not falling in line with. That people don't know what to unite with, and that's because of propaganda and not having critical thinking skills.
Well,
Because that isn't really promoted in our schools. It's not.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, it goes back to the amplification function of media, the amplification on steroids function of social media, which is why black folks have to have these hard conversations. Why, thank God, we have a place like Black Power Media, a
Right.
platform where I can bring where, first of all, where they let me up in this mother. Second of all, I'm able to bring you on and let's have this conversation because
Right.
the misinformation, the disinformation, the trolling nature is
Right.
out of control.
It is.
We strategize. We talk about it all the time. How can we increase the reach of Black Power Media? Which is why I be telling y'all to share the videos, like, subscribe, and share. Right? I mean, we fighting a hell of a battle. It's a hell of a battle.
Right. No, it's real, and it's very hard. As somebody who, my organization is grassroots. We don't have any big fancy anything, but we've been towing the line, suited and booted, doing what we need to do in
Mhm.
DC and Maryland and Virginia, wherever I go. I'm there for my people. I just remember, hey, 10 years ago I met you,
Yeah, we were in St. Louis.
but it was literally 10 years ago, like literally.
Right. Actually,
Yeah,
yeah, 10 years ago this
yeah.
month.
It was ten
Yeah,
years ago this
we
very month. Yeah.
we knew each other online, but we were
Mhm.
both in Ferguson after the
Mhm.
murder of Mike Brown at the exact same time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
so suited and I go where my people are needed. If my people need help, then I'm gonna go. Like touch one, touch all. It is what it is. I was taught by a lot of wonderful people, even some flawed people. But I know how to take the gems from what they gave me, and it put me on this path. And so yeah, my path as a queer and trans person took me to St. Louis took me to Ferguson. We stayed in Ferguson actually,
Mhm,
right in the community, right in the hood. And I got to meet a lot of good comrades out
mhm,
there. It was a beautiful thing to see. And there was a lot of queer and trans people, and people will say things like, um, well, if the LGBT, where are y'all at? I'm like, was right beside you. What do you? Where, we was. I was out there. I was serving somebody food. I was getting some. I was a street medic when I went to Ferguson. I was a street
mhm,
medic in Baltimore. Next thing you know, I'm living here in Baltimore. I does this, and I'm not an anomaly. There are plenty of
mhm,
us that are out
mhm,
here, and all we want to do is get free. Someone asked what my organization is. It's called Food Clothing Resistance Collective Maroon Movement. We have a podcast that's been on hiatus. It's coming back. It's called Marooncast. We also have a media outlet called Black Lens Photos and Media. We focus on social documentary photography, documenting our people, and showing a different light. And we got some projects that are coming up. But this organization has been around since 2015. And again, it's a Black trans led organization. And it always has been. And I don't know if everybody knew that, because people focus on what they want to, but it has always been. And I've always been openly gender nonconforming and queer. And within the last 15, 16 months, understanding that, I can't not be trans to please anyone. My revolutionary work is what it is, whether you can palate me or not, whether you can, but it's that's not my job to do that. My job is to toe the line and and do what my people need, and whether that's mutual aid, whether that's education, whether that's creating spaces for all of us to come in and have dialogue, whether that's direct action, whether that's peer support, whether that is harm reduction, and everything else. We need that, and I want to inspire more Black, queer, and trans people to, continue to be gender outlaws. Today is actually Marsha P. Johnson's, birthday, and so it feels good to be talking about these issues um, on such a fantastic Black August day. You know,
I know that's right. One, it's like 300 comments over
wow.
here in the chat. I don't know who. is cutting up or doing
I hope
what?
it's all good. I can't see them all because I'm trying not to mess up
Um,
the.
right. I think I might have this part okay. I'm, you know.
Okay.
Big Teal says, thank you for your courage to be yourself and do revolutionary politics.
Right on.
Where's Sugar Booger? Oh, it was there. Oh, where's Sugar Booger go? Sugar Booger said, I'll have to listen to this one again. I hope
All
she's
right.
talking about this show.
All right.
In Okay, let's see this one. In Gonyama, not gonna lie, these white people did us bad by giving us they bullshit, binary laws, etc. Because shit is hard to unlearn.
Word.
Afraid
Yeah.
Not says thank you. Like I said, I'm hoping
Right.
hoping I don't
Right.
mess stuff up.
Yeah.
And some of these people are talking to each other. Y'all need to talk to each other on your own time.
Oh, I'm glad people aren't in there. Ow, I didn't know what was gonna be. I had to sit and marinate the night before. I was like, I don't know what's gonna pop up. I don't know who gonna come up in here and say some stuff. But I mean, for those who don't know, I know when you said 30 years, they probably like, what? How? But I'm from Norfolk, Virginia, just real quick, and I was a part of Imam Jamil Alameen's extended community. We called it the Ummah. Basically, I
Mhm,
was I was Sunni Muslim and revolutionary and ready to take on the world, and but I could not be openly myself clearly in that type of environment. But bit by bit, year by year, eventually I ended up just every day being more and more and more. The more I studied, the more I understood the contradictions and why we're so stuck with the colonial mentality. It helped me to be able to just but those revolutionary principles, I learned those starting at like 16. um
mhm,
I was fascinated that this was who we said was H. Rap Brown back in the day. Like, I was like, what? That's him? Wow.
mhm,
Like it was amazing to me that he was still doing the work and that we were able to do mutual aid and all that stuff in our communities. But again, when it came to studying in the community from Black bookstores and Black consciousness, things like that, um, it was hard to find myself. You know, I think
mhm,
also around that time, still as a child, as a teen, I read James Baldwin and other things. I'm gonna be honest. As much as I love James Baldwin, he loved America a little too much for me.
Whoo! I'm sorry.
I'm
Let
gonna
me
keep
cut
it
back real
100.
quick.
I'm not Bayard Rustin. He loved America a little too much for me. He was too much of a pacifist for me.
Can
I am
I
a new African revolutionary,
can
and
I
I love the work that they did, and I salute them. But there are parts of them that just don't resonate with me. And but I love me some James Baldwin. Don't get me wrong. Don't
mhm,
get me wrong, because
mhm,
he said a lot of things that he had to say, and I don't think he always could say the fullness of what he wanted to say.
mhm,
Um, so he did, what he did, right? But I am not James Baldwin. I am not Bayard Rustin. I'm not even Paulie Murray, because
mhm,
I don't. There are
mhm,
people that I can learn from them, right? But it doesn't mean that I follow that path. For me, it was always, since a teenager, a revolutionary radical path. So we're talking Combahee River Collective, we're talking Salsa Soul Sisters, we're talking even some non-black groups like Gay Liberation Front, and there are
mhm,
so many ancestors that I looked up to, um, that I did, but I was able to identify with, and I was able to see the radical nature of what they were doing. So yeah, it's been a long journey. Um,
mhm.
it's been a long journey to get to this point, I should say.
Right. I'm trying to run through these real quick. Thank you for this conversation. Seemingly, shout out to Piper Carter, who's
Right on,
also
Comrade
on the
Piper.
Black Power Media platform. Shout out to Quaker
Right on.
Anarchists, Sima and Thandisizwe, our precious, precious souls. Thank you so much for
Thank
that.
you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Right on.
Let's see what else we got. Big Teal said, "Tell him, Tandy." I forgot what I told her, but all right. I'll, I'll tell him.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that bed rusting one. I know my brothers and sisters. They be looking for everybody looks for a model. Everybody wants to see themselves. Well,
Exactly.
Bayard Rustin, he's the one who really organized the March on Washington. You mean the March on Washington that Malcolm X criticized?
That Malcolm called the farce on Washington.
Okay, they called the
and,
farce on Washington. And you saw we have evidence of Malcolm's admiration for
Mhm.
James Baldwin as
Oh
opposed
yeah.
to Bayard Rustin. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. So I have been more of a boots and suits, as you will, on the ground in the ciphers, in the hoods, in the not so glamorous spots, and I have not done as much writing, for future generations to be able to, I think I need to. I'm inspired by you. I think I need to start writing and jotting some of this down because um I'm not an anomaly, but I don't know a whole lot of new African anarchists raised in Pan African socialist settings, who is queer and trans and you know still out here doing it.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
and so I think I do need to, for those who look like me and want to see a reflection.
yep.
I think it's the ancestors been leaning on me real hard that I need to start to get more into writing and leave some type of words behind.
Absolutely.
And
And get your podcast back up.
get the podcast back up.
Hmm.
Life be life, and COVID has been rough. We did a lot of mutual aid and getting PPE and food, clothing, all kinds of things to people in these last several years. It kind of drained me. I took some time out to get my health right because that's important. I'm also now taking courses to be a certified peer support and recovery specialist because that is another I guess pandemic, epidemic, if you will, in our community. I mean, we lost 100,000 people to overdosing, substance use. It's a serious thing, and so I'm trying to reach out as much as I can with the work that I do, um, to make sure that we're alive. We have to be alive for the revolution. We got to,
Okay.
we have to be healed, and we have to speak and talk, and so I am gonna do more of this. I took my break. I feel better, and I'm ready to do more of this. And I'm glad that this was my first one in over a year, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad it's for you because I really respect your work.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
I told you people don't have to agree on every instance in the
Mm-hmm.
hood, right? In our community, even in our burbs or wherever you're from. For new Africans, for Black people, there are going to be many things we disagree with, but
Mm-hmm.
we have to think about the ethics and the principles and the path of what we're trying to do. White people, they don't all agree with each other either, right? When it comes to oppressing us, though, and colonizing us and all of that, they find ways to agree, right? We've got to find ways. Um, what did Baba Kwame say? We have got to take time and patience with our people because they're ours. And I
Mm-hmm.
want I want y'all to, if you don't leave with anything else, learn to take time and patience with your people to have dialogue. This
Mm-hmm.
isn't for everybody. If you're not that person, then back up. That's not your job. But if it is, if that's your calling to be an educator, if it's your calling to do whatever, do it. Because there's not enough people who aren't burnt out or hurt or harmed or self-harming or whatever who can do the work. If you can do the work, do the work.
Mm-hmm.
All of this other stuff they throw at us like a bone to distract us, like we're a pack of wolves, and we go after it. We fall for it every time. They sit back laughing at us. We have got to be able to. That doesn't mean I'm about to run out with some Black Hebrew Israelites. Like there are ethics, right, and principles, and I'm just keeping it a brick. There are people in our community that actually want to harm and kill me and kill people, like me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason that Black trans women are dying. There's a reason that Black trans men have a high rate of rape. There and Black lesbians. There's a reason for all of these things. We
Mm-hmm.
are the solution to these things, though. We could be the cause or the solution to these things.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to. It's so much I want to do, but we've been here already over
Yeah,
an hour, and
yeah.
Mr. Arthritis is knocking on my door.
Arthur,
Arthur is knocking at the door. I'm not quite sure how much longer. I wanted to ask you something, and that's old age. It left me just
that's
that
all
quick.
right.
But What was I going to ask you about? It's gone. I hate when that
It's
happens.
all right. That's
But
how I am
because
too.
but because Arthur is knocking and I'm not quite sure how much longer. First of all, as long as I'm on Black Power Media, you
Right.
have a home. So I'm gonna
Appreciate
put it
that.
like that. If
Appreciate
people
that.
want to follow your work, follow you, see what you're doing, help
Right.
you out, like
Right.
help us out with
Mhm.
patreon.com, help us
Mhm.
out at Black Power Media on YouTube and patreon.com. If they want to help you out, how can they do that?
Well, I am on Instagram and on Twitter as at SIMALEERBG. That's Simile RBG. I am on a bandcamp.com, simile.bandcamp.com actually. You can buy my music because I am an MC. That's a whole thing that I didn't talk about, but yes, I'm an artist and I'm going to be dropping some more music soon. A lot of
Mhm.
people know me from that, and being in documentaries talking about hip hop. So you can check out my music. You can go on Facebook. I'm also on there. Marooncast is the podcast. Marooncast. Type it in Google, you'll see it. I'm drawing blanks on my website. What the website is. There are older episodes, like 10 episodes up there. We're rebringing the second season this year, probably in the next month. But yeah, so yeah, you can check out the podcast, check out my music, check out my social media. I'm also on TikTok, also at Simile RBG. It's not active. I just got it up. Y'all add me. I guess I got to do it. I'm an old head, but I'll do it. I'll do it for the kids. I'll do it for the kids.
Do it for the
Um,
people.
I do it for the peoples. But
Hmm.
you know, the kids run TikTok, so it's like we in a ball field. So I got to make sure it's not corny and whack and any of that, you know. So I see you, Piper, trying to get me to spit. Piper, that hip hop person, also, you know, we come from similar backgrounds. So
Hmm.
it is the 50th anniversary of hip hop, but I don't think I'm a spit right now.
Well, you better, but yeah, definitely get your voice, your
Yeah,
your your lived experience, your viewpoint up in that conversation, yo.
no doubt,
50th
no doubt.
50th year.
Yes.
Can't remember what I was gonna ask you about, but I just wanted to, before we get up out of here, I just wanted to reiterate though that there needs to be more nuanced conversation. One of the reasons why is because some of what is said by these reactionary folks, it
Hmm.
resonates with people. Like I was
Right.
talking earlier about the aspect of misogynoir.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's outright within this manufactured trans debate. There is a
Hmm.
hatred of cis women, I believe, and that is triggering, and that's the kind of thing that makes me want to seek you out and bend your ear and have
Hmm.
a conversation like what's going on. We need to be focusing on bigger things. Absolutely correct. The heterosexual community and the not heterosexual community.
Yeah,
All of us need to be focusing on capitalism and imperialism and what is happening with the entire world that
absolutely.
affects our communities as well as what affects our communities.
And absolutely, misogyny exists, and misogynoir exists, and trans misogynoir exists, and anti-masculine bias and bias, you know, anti-trans masculine, I should say, bias exists because trans men
Mhm.
and trans masculine folks, they don't even talk about us. We like an afterthought, or it's just some completely like we're failed women, or you know, whatever anomaly people want to throw out there that has nothing to do with actual facts. Again, it all is a distraction though, because how I
Mhm.
love, how I live, it has nothing to do with my principles and my ethics as far as because it's different than yours, it's automatically wrong.
Mhm.
That's not how it works. You know, that's not how any of this works.
That's not how this works.
Yeah,
Right.
so I need you all to be able to dialogue again, please. Like you need to start
Oh,
talking to people and not about them. Like for real.
I remember what I was going to ask you about. The fact that I appreciate the fact that you told me you're an educator. And no,
Mm,
even though you're tired, this is
yeah,
what you do is you educate, because a lot of trans people will say, well, it's not my job to educate you.
right.
And so black people will say to white people, it's not our
Mm-hmm.
job to educate you. But as I
Mm-hmm.
said to you, if I believe that I'm a new African, that I am colonized, and that imperialism and capitalism and a racist reactionary white working class are standing in my way,
Right.
I need to I need allies. I need accomplices. So I'm not
Right.
just going to leave it up to white folks to on their own go study something. I want to be
Exactly.
ensure that they are on my side. I want to
Right.
ensure that they are in line with my ideological line. So I am
Right.
going to suggest to them, this is what you need to study. And so
Exactly.
what we need from someone such as you, even though it ain't trans folks' job to educate us, what we need from someone like you to ensure that
Yeah.
we have the correct line. Because
Yeah.
when I told you about um, Robert Jensen,
Mm-hmm.
who's a journalism professor, I
Mm-hmm.
appreciated his critique of objectivity in journalism, but he
Mm-hmm.
also writes on feminism and patriarchy, and he has an anti trans critique. When I told you about the anti trans critique, you told me that this is a bigot and this
Yeah.
is not someone who I should be, in your opinion, getting my information from. See, I
Right.
appreciate it as
And
opposed to
and when
because when you
and
tell
it's
somebody
not a
to just go study, well, what am I going to study? I might come up with the wrong thing, you
exactly.
know?
And so and it's very important to say that thing because when I say someone is a bigot, I don't just throw that out there, right?
Right.
Um, I mean people who are aligning again all of these drag protests and protests of trans people just standing outside, almost like the black laws, right? You can't even just stand outside and congregate. Now, if you're a trans person, and it's been this way for a very long time. Trans people will get arrested just for congregating, as in particular trans women. There's a reason that Stonewall happened and Compton's cafeteria riot happened, and so many other things happened because our general body is criminalized. But there are again right wing white supremacist talking points. So when you have a group that is supposed to be a gender critical, as they say, that's a red flag. The dinosaur, I told you all of that. Those are red flags because when you go to these protests that they're throwing, guess who's there and who is not turned away? Proud Boys, Nazis, all of these white supremacist groups. What's going on?
Hmm.
What's really going on? You don't see that at a black trans lives matter or a black queer protest. You don't see Proud Boys and white supremacists out there. You see again your cousins, your nephews, your nieces, your aunties, your pop pops out there. They might be different, but you know
Hmm.
what I mean? And so I don't ever want to see my people aligning with people who these white women who have been leading a lot of this stuff. They don't give a damn about black feminists.
Hmm.
They don't give a damn about, you know what I'm saying? They don't give a damn about they don't really care about black women's bodies and
Nope.
black children.
Nope.
This is a game that they're playing for. Still, their goal is white power at the end of the day. And that is why all of these groups that are trying to change curriculums and all of these things don't really care about the abortion bans. And just like what just happened in South Carolina, it's going through for 6 weeks. After that, you can't have an abortion. Like when I look at people signing bills and it's a room full of white women,
Hmm.
and these are the same people saying that you're supposed to hate trans and queer people. Like, y'all better rethink, because something's not right if you're aligning with conservatism, the
Hmm.
very people who are oppressing us. And so I never want my people to read. I mean, if you read it, I need you to read it with a critical eye, right?
Critical.
To
Yep.
find the contradictions in it, and
Hmm.
then be able to analyze and come away with the correct line. Again, we're coming from revolutionary science, not from anything else. It's not personal, but it is for me though. But you
Right.
know what I mean. In general, it's not personal. We're trying to use the science to get free, and that's just what it is.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is.
I think I'm gonna have to let Arthur have it. I
Let
think I'm gonna
Arthur
have to
have
go
it.
on and let Mr. Arthritis have his way with me.
I
So that
feel you.
means that I cannot sit up here no more. But I have enjoyed sitting up here.
We have been up here
Um,
an hour and 30 minutes. We didn't.
and I didn't mess up too much.
Yeah, it's been good. I
Didn't
mean, look, we're not
didn't
going to
press
touch on everything, and like, there's
no,
no
we're not.
way. Because trust me, my notes were about 10 pages, right? And I don't even think I said a percentage of it. But these are
No.
again, this is social media. We can't even with us being able to see and hear each other, we can't break through everything. But it's a
Mm,
good start, right? I can't
yeah.
I can only just show up, be present, and we do what we need to do. Somebody say Arthur. Yeah, Arthur.
Arthritis. You know,
Arthur is
ask
real.
your grandmama and them about
You know
arthritis.
what I mean? Ask your mama now.
Arthritis.
You know.
And I
But
call
I
them, we
appreciate
on
you
a first name
sitting
basis,
here.
Arthur.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go
I
ahead, sir.
appreciate. No, I was just saying I was appreciating, you, you know, um even though you're in pain, you know, and I was tired, we still came in and we did what we needed to do to struggle forward, and it's a beautiful thing. So I
You put
appreciate that.
out your information where people can follow along and support you.
Yeah.
Um, Stand Up, Struggle Forward by Sanyika Shakur, Crossroads Support Network, Rebuild Collective, rebuildcollective.org, Tony K. Bambara, The Black Woman on the Issue of Roles, and many other wonderful essays. Lots of information out there for us to digest. I call this a study and struggle session for Black August. Um, Hopefully, probably not every Thursday. Once September rolls around, I'm gonna take a break, but we're gonna continue to have, if not monthly, we're gonna continue to have study and struggle sessions here on Rootwork. Shout out to Black Power Media again for allowing this to making it possible for this to take place. Shout out to Piper. I'm not sure if any of my other co-hosts came through. I don't want to go back over to the comments. I've been doing good. I'm gonna leave it alone for now. But
Don't
shout
mess
out
it
to
up.
all the BPM regulars in the chat. Greatly appreciate all of you. Sima Lee,
Yes.
thank you for being my comrade.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying the course over 30 years, despite the madness. And thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank
Really,
you.
really, really appreciate you.
I appreciate you as well. I just want to say last before I go, since I was trained in auricular acupuncture by New Africans, by people from Ghana, who were directly trained by Mutulu Shakur.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, I do this in the spirit of him and so many of our warriors, Sophia Bukhari and so many others. Free the land. I'm just we gonna get there. I've been saying a lot till we get there. Till we get there. Straight ahead. Till we
Like
get there.
Mutulu said, straight ahead.
Straight ahead. Straight ahead.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna go on and let Arthur finish having his way with me. Peace to you, free land.
Peace.
Peace to
Free the land.
y'all, free land.
By any means
Now,
necessary.
I know, now that we are at the end, I know you enjoyed this video. Hit that like button since you didn't do it in the beginning. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the link for this video. Make sure you support all the other shows on the Black Power Media platform. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy. Be good to each other. Peace.
Peace.
I mix what I
Now, see there? We was almost there. We was almost there. Almost had it. I'm trying to get up out of here. Now, I could just leave. I could just leave. But I don't want to just leave. I want to give you a reminder. And if I can't find this reminder, I'm going to have to just leave. So, yeah, I'm going to just have to leave. All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Peace.